The film begins with a young woman named Jane who is washed up on the shore of an isolated island after a shipwreck. Her friend Brad, who also washed ashore with her, is gravely injured. Despite Jane's efforts, Brad dies shortly after. Deeply upset, she leaves his body and starts to explore the island, only to discover it's completely deserted. Realizing she's stranded, Jane ventures deeper into the island and stumbles upon a bag containing a woman's purse and children's belongings. She also finds a medication bottle dated 1994, suggesting someone had been there years before. Inside the bag, she also discovers a matchbox, which she keeps for survival. Returning to the shore, she spots a large hollow tree and decides to use it as shelter for the night. The next morning, Jane notices numerous fish washed up on the beach, including a small shark whose body has been partially eaten. She collects some fish to eat and then notices graves nearby. She decides to dig a grave for Brad, as his body has already begun to decompose. Later, while exploring, Jane discovers that Brad's grave has been disturbed, and his body half-eaten. Terrified, she suspects an animal must have done this, and quickly fashions a weapon out of a piece of wood to defend herself. She spends the next night on guard, waiting for the mysterious animal to return. The following day, Jane spots a suitcase floating in the water. She retrieves it and discovers clothing and shoes inside, which she promptly changes into. That night, she finds photos in the suitcase that reveal a family, a couple and 2 children, had once vacationed on the island. As she examines the photos, she hears the roar of a passing airplane. She desperately fires a flare gun, but the plane is already too far away to notice her. As the flare descends, Jane catches a glimpse of a shadowy creature in the light. Startled, she runs back to the island and hides as the creature begins searching for her. She spends a terrified night in hiding. The next morning, Jane studies one of the photos closely and spots a pair of glowing eyes in the background, matching the creature she saw the previous night. Realizing the family might have been killed by the same creature, she becomes even more desperate to escape the island. Jane constructs a makeshift raft using the suitcase and a life jacket. But her attempt to leave fails when the raft capsizes, forcing her to return to shore. Knowing she needs to find a safer place to hide, Jane decides to spend the night in the hollow tree again. However, the creature returns and tries to break the tree apart to get to her. Exhausted, it eventually gives up and retreats. The next morning, Jane inspects the tree and finds it heavily damaged. Determined to protect herself, she devises a new plan. Jane catches several large fish and hangs them from a tree as bait, hoping to lure the creature away from her. When she wakes up the following morning, she finds that her plan worked. The creature had eaten the fish, sparing her. Jane then notices a decomposed body washed up on the shore. She decides to hang the body from the tree as well, hoping the creature will eat it and leave her alone. Survival on the island becomes increasingly difficult. Jane digs a pit to hide in for the night and waits for the creature's return. When it arrives, she sees the creature clearly for the first time and is horrified by its terrifying appearance. The creature devours the body, and Jane narrowly avoids detection, hiding in fear. The next morning, Jane realizes she needs to build a safer hiding spot. She constructs a swing high in the trees, hoping the creature won't be able to reach her. That night, the creature returns, sensing her presence, and begins shaking the tree violently. Jane's swing breaks, and she falls to the ground, forcing her to flee. She discovers that the creature moves faster in water than on land, and before long, it catches up to her. The creature grabs her and throws her into the water, but Jane manages to escape and hides in another tree. The next morning, Jane wakes with an injured leg and heads to the sea to clean her wound. While washing, she notices a raft in the distance. To her amazement, she sees her 2 friends, Lucas and Mia, who had also survived the shipwreck. Overjoyed, Jane welcomes them to the island and shares her fish with them. She talks about the creature and says, "We need to get out of here as soon as possible because I've been trapped here for the past 7 days." However, Lucas and Mia don't believe her. They think she's lying. They say, "We've been drifting at sea for the last 5 days, and now we've found this island." Neither of them wants to leave. Jane shows them pictures where the creature is clearly visible, but they still decide to stay. Jain doesn't want to leave either, but she realizes they won't listen to her, so she plans to hide from them and steal their raft to escape. She tries to leave with the raft, but both Lucas and Mia catch her. When Jain opens her eyes, she finds herself tied up, and it's already nighttime. She tries to convince Lucas to untie her, but Lucas and Mia ignore her. After this, Mia takes a walk on the quiet shore while Lucas stays with Jain. As Mia walks, a creature emerges from the water and attacks her. Hearing her screams, Lucas runs toward her, but the creature drags Mia into the water, killing her. Seeing this, Lucas is terrified and climbs up a tree in fear. The morning comes, but Lucas still refuses to come down from the tree. Now he understands what Jain was saying. Jain shows up and tells him, "Look, the creature only comes out at night. It doesn't appear during the day." Hearing this, Lucas finally comes down from the tree. Now Jain tells him, "We need to get off this island as soon as possible." Lucas, now shaken, agrees. They gather some fish and coconuts, packing all their survival supplies. Lucas is still scared, but Jain reassures him, the creature only attacks at night. By the time night falls, we'll be far away from the island. Jain sits in the raft and notices bloodstains, realizing that Lucas and Mia must have killed and eaten some of their human companions to survive these last 5 days. As they start to leave the island on the raft, Lucas spots the creature in the water. Both of them panic and huddle on the raft. The creature enters their raft and attacks. Lucas fires the flare gun at the creature, but it grabs Jain and drags her into the water. Jain manages to pull out a knife and stabs the creature several times. Lucas jumps in the water to help, and the creature releases Jain, grabbing Lucas instead. It pulls him into a large underwater cave. Jain swims back to the island, devastated by Lucas's death. Determined to face the creature, she crafts sharp weapons from the wood scattered around, but they aren't sharp enough. So she digs up a grave, retrieves a skeleton, and fashions weapons from the bones. She plans to burn the creature in a fire, so she gathers dry bushes and surrounds the area with them, preparing her trap. Night falls, and the creature appears, drawn to the spot where Jain set the trap. Jain sets the bushes on fire, trapping the creature in the flames. She attacks it with her new weapons, severely injuring it, but it manages to grab her. Jain fights back and escapes, but the creature lunges at her again. However, it's now too injured and collapses. Seeing this, Jain delivers the final blows, stabbing it repeatedly and eventually slitting its throat. Afterward, we see that the fire Jain set has spread, engulfing the entire island. Jain knows that someone will notice the fire and come to rescue her, which was her plan all along. And with that, the movie ends. Friends, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and leave a comment. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.